Hey everyone, welcome to this live session at Gravitee Edge by myself, Linus Hakansson, the field CTO here at Gravitee. So I'll be making some very exciting announcements today at this product keynote, but I'll start to set the stage in terms of where Gravitee is coming from and how we see the API management market. So API lifecycle management is obviously the concept of managing API design all the way from starting in the design phase to once they're built and evaluated and then gets analytics and business metrics associated with them. Now, here at Gravitee, we believe that both synchronous APIs and asynchronous APIs needs to be treated as first-class citizen when it comes to API management. So we call this at Gravitee event native. And for us, it means that the gateway in an API management system should not only be able to take incoming traffic and forward it to upstream services like REST and SOAP and so forth. We also want API gateways to move the data to asynchronous devices like Kafka, IoT streams, event brokers, and so forth. And we also believe that API gateway should be able to work the other way around. It should be able to listen to a Kafka broker and act on any message that comes in, potentially maybe send it out to a server that has registered for interest in that topic, potentially. We also believe that the gateway should be able to work on not only requests and responses, but also publish and subscribe on asynchronous streams, whether that is rate limiting, whether that is transforming messages, or whatever it might be. But API management is more broad than just a gateway. So for us at Gravitee, we think that event-native API management is also about the documentation, access, security, analytics on both synchronous APIs and asynchronous APIs. And what we are quite proud to have had over the last couple of months and worked on for the last couple of years is this concept to make it super easy for API providers to expose their asynchronous investments in different types and forms using API management. So to give you some examples of what Gravitee can do today is we can take streams like Kafka and Solace, and an API provider can have the gateway sit on top of that and expose it in a very flexible concept. You can expose it as a REST API to have people ingesting messages using HTTP POST into Kafka, for example. You can do HTTP GET for long polling. You can do WebSocket and server-sent events for web-friendly streaming. Or you can do maybe webhooks callbacks if you have clients that wants to be receiving messages whenever there's an update in an upstream service. And the beautiful thing with Gravitee is that you have the full lifecycle API management across those use cases. You have security, you have analytics, you have a developer portal experience with Open API, Async API, cloud event support. Again, treating all these concepts around event and APIs as first-class citizen elements. One of the big things I'm proud to announce here at Gravitee Edge is the imminent launch of what we call integrations. So at Gravitee, we want to allow our customers to make it much easier and seamless to build API products on top of your existing asynchronous and event broker investment. And the first event broker that will receive this integration support is Solace. Just to be clear, we support Solace already today. We support Confluent and Kafka already today. But with the integration concept, we're making it much easier for an API provider to discover existing event API products in Solace and then build APIs in Gravitee on top of them. Now, in this initial release of Gravitee, with the integrations that comes in 4.2, we will be supporting what we call the mediation mode. And we'll go through what that means and what federation mode means in the demonstration later on. But mediation means that the Gravitee gateway sits on top of Solace, just as it does today. So we're allowing this kind of breakage of protocol to webhook, WebSockets, and so forth on top of the event broker. And we're providing these user interfaces now to make it very seamless to discover and build API products on top of Solace. In a future release, we're also looking at doing the same with Confluent, being able to build API products on top of Confluent ecosystems. And we're also looking to support federation mode. Now, federation mode basically means that you can do all these sort of capabilities, discover and expose your event broker APIs and events without them going through the Gravitee gateway. So you can go directly to Solace, directly to Confluent, but Gravitee manages the discovery, consumption, and security in terms of getting access to those APIs. Now, another issue that we have identified here at Gravitee also obviously analysts like Gartner addressing this kind of trend and need in the enterprise as well, is the fact that over the years, organizations are moving to cloud. They're maybe selecting multiple cloud providers. They have distributed teams working in those different systems, adapting things like API gateways in different teams and in different kind of platforms. There's also obviously a new generation of new technologies that helps API management with new, more lightweight API gateways. And there's a need to have them coexisting, maybe with legacy and more heavy-duty gateways. Now, some gateways in API management do not fit for all different purposes, and that's where some organizations have some gateways that operate either in different divisions or for different use cases in the organization. Now, when you add the concept of event brokers and another velocity, the asynchronous velocity, it becomes even more complex for organizations to have governance, knowing how they secure, how they expose those APIs, but also for API consumers and developers to have a consistent developer experience, a consistent developer portal where you can see documentation, subscribe, view how your applications are consuming those said APIs across those different gateways and brokers. So what we're also very excited to announce today is the upcoming support in 4.2 of Gravitee for AWS API Gateway integration. So we spoke about the concept of integrations as it came to Solace in particular and event brokers. The same concept for integrations applies to third-party API gateways, and AWS API Gateway is going to be the first that Gravitee is going to support. So again, it's about one-click discovery from Gravitee into your third-party API gateway systems. It's the ability to expose and document and make available those APIs on the developer portal of Gravitee, so you can have coexistent API documentation and access for asynchronous APIs, event brokers, and indeed third-party API gateways as well. And for Amazon, Gravitee will manage the subscription and API key federation so that a user can go to Gravitee to ask for access to a particular API, but then go directly to the Amazon API gateway with an API key generated by Gravitee and still get access. Now, in the previous announcement, I talked about the mediation concept, which is Gravitee sitting on top of another event broker and providing, for example, breaking of a protocol. Now, in the future, it's also going to be possible in Gravitee using this integration concept and this new interface to have the Gravitee API gateway creating APIs that runs on the Gravitee gateway as well, that then streams it to Amazon and other gateways. So that's kind of most of my talk done. I want to kind of leave you guys with a demonstration of these capabilities. So first of all, I'm going to show you what it will look like in Gravitee 4.2 and future versions when you want to go and discover your existing event broker investments like the Solace, what it looks like as an integration. You'll be able to build products on top of what Solace called event API products and expose that on the Gravitee gateway and allowing for any type of protocol to be used like webhook, WebSocket, server-sent events, HTTP post, HTTP get, and with all these capabilities that I've been speaking about message transformations, rate limiting, traffic shaping, security, everything that you're comfortable in terms of API governance and API lifecycle management, also applying to said APIs. And I'm going to then demonstrate what that will look like for Amazon in Gravitee 4.2 and how we can discover what existing APIs that run on your Amazon API Gateway investment, and then also allow you to build API products in Gravitee on top of that. But in this case, it's not running on the Gravitee Gateway. It's exposing in the developer portal. This is what we call the federation mode, allowing consumers to discover, subscribe, and get access to API keys at this point for Amazon through the Gravitee developer portal. And now I'm going to go into that demonstration. All right, so this is the new integration interface in Gravitee API Management Console. So as you can see here, there's a couple of different integrations here. Some of them will be coming eventually. As I mentioned, in Gravitee 4.2, we have Solace and AWS API Gateway support. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is adding a new Solace integration. So I'll give it a name. I then have the option to decide how Gravitee will be able to discover and extract information out of Solace. In this case, I'm going to just be calling it Solace Production. I'm going to be using what we call a Gravitee control plane instance, which is something bundled within Gravitee. So as long as that has access to your Solace instance, you'll be fine. I'll go ahead and create that Solus integration. Now when I have that Solus integration, I can start adding APIs associated with this integration. So I'll go ahead and add new APIs, and this is where I have this option of mediation and federation. And as I've introduced in 4.2 of Gravitee, we will be supporting mediation only for Solus. So it means that the Gravitee gateway will sit on top of the Solus event broker. So I'm just going to hit here and click next. Now, in the case of Solus, what you're able to discover is what Solus calls event API products, which is typically a collection of multiple event APIs that are resembled by async API specifications. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to select the flight arrival event here, which corresponds to an event API product on Solus. On the next step, I can define any naming or other details of my Gravitee API that will run on top of a Solus event broker. I can set how I want to expose it. So here I configure HTTP GET and WebSockets as those two means of exposure. I could go and change that. I could then obviously go and create policies and change the different plans and authentication. But now as part of this demo, I'm going to leave the defaults and go ahead and save and deploy that API. And there we go. We now have an API running in this mediation mode, which means that it's exposed on the Gravitee gateway and it's proxying the Solus event broker, making that flight arrival event an API product on the Gravitee gateway, exposable on the developer portal, and so forth. Next, I'll head back to my catalog, and now I'm going to be creating an AWS API gateway integration. So go and click that. In this case, just for demo purposes, I'm going to assume that my Amazon environment might be in another type of air-gapped environment or so that Gravitee might not be able to reach. And I'm going to be selecting this self-hosted agent as the connectivity layer, which means that Gravitee will be able to fetch and communicate with Amazon in a private network effectively. So you just go and install that agent, and the agent will do all the work for you. So once I have that integration connected, just as with Solus, I'll need to go in and associate APIs that are coming from this integration. So I'll click this Add APIs button. And now with Amazon, I do not have the mediation capability, and frankly, it's not as powerful as the federation capability in the case of a third-party API gateway. So again, federation means that the Gravitee gateway is not involved. However, Gravitee is still allowing an API provider to have API quality and other governance capabilities on top of the API in a single kind of pane of glass. And it allows the developer to have a single developer portal to discover, subscribe to, and analyze the APIs that their applications are using. So I'm going to be selecting federation here. And similarly, I'll have a list of APIs that I can decide I want to expose at Gravitee and have Gravitee managing those APIs from a developer portal perspective. And in the case here, these corresponds to open API specifications on the Amazon gateway. So I'll select the flight status API here. I'll give it the same name on the Gravitee gateway as that's where it will be, well, not on the gateway, sorry, on the developer portal. So there's not as many options that I can take here in terms of how that API will behave. I cannot change the endpoint or the entry point because at the end of the day, it's the Amazon gateway that is doing all the runtime heavy lifting here. So now I have two integrations. I have the Solus integration generating one API that is deployed on the Gravitee API gateway. That is the flight arrival event. And then I have another API which is not deployed on the Gravitee gateway. It's running in this federation mode, but is still consumable and discoverable from a developer in the developer portal. So if I head to the API screen here, I can see those two APIs. I can see we have introduced a new concept in Gravitee called a runtime to help you identify where your APIs physically run. So even though the Solus event API product that we exposed and discovered is running on the Solus event broker, it's actually proxied by the Gravitee gateway, and that's why the runtime is actually on Gravitee. That's where the client will connect to. But for the flight status API, it will be running on Amazon. Now, if I click the flight status API, I will have limited capabilities compared to what you're typically able to do as an API owner. I cannot start or stop the API, for example, as that's something that you do on the Amazon side. Now, if I go into the flight arrival event, again, this is a normal Gravitee API. That's APIs that we've been able to create previously. We have been able to create APIs on top of Solus, just not using this integration user experience previously. So if I go to the Policy Studio, you can see here that we have 2 automatically created flows in Gravitee that allows you to do traffic shaping and policies on individual type of events that are happening. And those corresponds to the event APIs in a Solos perspective that are powering that event API product. And that's it. Hopefully that gets you as excited as myself and the Gravitee team that is generating these capabilities. So as we demonstrated, you'd be able in Gravitee to discover your existing event and third-party gateway investments, make them available on Gravitee, either by mediating, i.e. having the Gravitee gateway sitting on top and providing traffic shaping, security, and other kind of protocol mediation capabilities, or exposing them through your gateway or in the future your broker without going through the gateway, which we call the federation mode, but still having that consistent developer experience. So thank you very much for watching. Don't miss the Gravitee CTO David session at Gravitee Edge as well, where he will be talking about the upcoming AI consumer portal and eventually how this will all kind of fit together in the Gravitee vision of unifying any velocity at any runtime. Thank you.